Hello everyone, welcome. Crash here, this is RTA Motorsports, and I am so excited. We're finally going to be building our Ryzen 3000 series PC.
Welcome to RTA Motorsports.
And what we're going to be doing is installing this CPU. This is the Ryzen 3900X, the 12-core, 24-thread behemoth, into this Asus tough board. I didn't even get to take it out of the Newegg box yet. This is the X570 tough board that just came out, and the NZXT H500i is going to be holding it all. I absolutely love this case. Always wanted to build in this case, and I'm glad we finally got it. Now, of course, from our current system, our Ryzen 2700X system that we've been using, we're going to be taking the GPU from that, and that is a EVGA 2080 Ti Black Edition. So anyway, without further ado, here we go. All right, so I want to keep the CPU to the side. This is going to be the jewel of the system. I really don't want to open it up just yet. I'm really excited to see what the cooler looks like, even though we're not going to be using that cooler. We do have a Noctua NHD15 that we're going to be using. Hopefully we could fit it in this case. I've looked at the tolerances and the clearance for the maximum height for the CPU cooler, and it's pretty much there. It is the exact height of our Noctua NHD15, so I'm not sure if it's even going to be able to fit. We may have to use the stock cooler until we find another option, but we'll cross that bridge once we get there. Let's take a look at this this motherboard. It looks like we got a little Harry's coupon. Could use some of that. So our current motherboard that we have in our 2700X build was actually our motherboard from our 1800X build. So it's a first gen Ryzen motherboard. It's an X370 motherboard, and it's the Asus Prime X370 Pro is what we're currently using for our Ryzen 2700X build. And it works. It does have some little issues here and there, especially when it comes to RAM speed. I figured being that we're getting a new CPU, I wanted to put it into a new case. Let's just get a new motherboard. We already have good sets of RAM at decent speeds that are compatible with this motherboard from the QVL list. I just wanted to do it all over again, kind of eliminate any sort of instability and any sort of variables that are maybe attributing to our blue screens that we have every so often. So anyway, here is the box for this here. It's actually a really nice packaging that it's coming in. The box is heavy. This is a we purchased this motherboard mainly off the recommendation from Buildzoid. If you never heard of him, he's an overclocker that's actually on Gamers Nexus channel every so often. He does his motherboard evaluations, and he goes into a deep dive into the PCB of the motherboards. And this is one of the boards that he was recommending for the price category. Was very impressive on its VRM solution on here, and we'll go into that in just a little bit. But this is a Wi-Fi board. It also has Bluetooth connectivity built in, so you can see the the massive Wi-Fi antenna on here. We're not going to be really using that. We are going to use the Bluetooth though, so I'm glad it does come with Bluetooth. Some of the VR solutions that we use, like the Samsung Odyssey, maybe we don't have to use our Bluetooth dongle anymore. And here is the motherboard. Let's take it out of this packaging. I'm excited. Not much else in the box. Wow. The cooler on the VRMs is huge, and unfortunately it doesn't have like a fixed IO. It does have an IO plate in here. I think this is for the audio solution down here. You do have separate traces kind of separating that out, so that's pretty cool. It's going to be isolated from that. The reason why I went with the Asus tough board, let's just go back to the very beginning. I wanted to try something new. I wanted to go MSI or anything like that. But really, within this price category, $200 board, it was either the Gigabyte board or this one here that Buildzoid was recommending. And obviously, I trust his input. He knows basically where all these chokes and VRMs and all the where they're all even sourced from. So I greatly trust his input. And when it comes to this board here, this board, the whole idea behind the Tough series is just reliability, ease of use. and a big push towards reliability. Everything is basically overbuilt on this board. There's not too many, there's not too much fluff. There's not too much bling on the board. It's all just a working sort of, you know, get it done, it just works type of board, and that's what I want. I just want something that's just going to work. This is seeming like it's going to be good here. We do have a included, it looks like a little cover here, heat spreader for an M.2 down here. But overall, this board is, I do like the aesthetic of it too. It does have a little bit of yellow, which is nice because our power supply, the cables are sleeved in yellow and black, so it's gonna kind of go good with this color scheme here. I know some people were kind of complaining of the color scheme. It actually works well for us, but the gray and, you know, some of the lighter colors here, this is almost white here, so that kind of works with this system being white and black. I think this color scheme is actually going to work really good. Oh, this is cool. Certificate of reliability. Certificate of reliability. That's hilarious. But it basically tells you all the tests that they have done, and that it actually got passing scores on everything from the MOSFETs to the chokes to the capacitors to the LAN adapter, everything. Cool, we have some SATA cables, but this is the I/O shield that it includes in the box. It's not a part of the motherboard, it's not fixed, but that's fine. And it doesn't look half bad. So, and next, it's gonna be this big behemoth here, the H500i mid-tower. It's actually a compact mid-tower, as they say. So, we're gonna have to stand up to get this out. This darn thing is pretty heavy. Now let's lay it down and slide it out. This thing is in here tight. Let's take a look. Oh man. Oh man. So it already has two fans pre-installed. We do have a lot more fans, but when you pay attention to the reviews for the H500 and the H500i, now they do have a newer version of this case out. I think it's the H510 or whatnot. Decided not to go with that. I wasn't really too much of a fan of the design of it. Kind of liked a little bit of the cleaner look here. With this one here, it only has the two fans, but in the reviews for it, in all the testing that was done in all the channels, this case performs pretty much in its optimal way right now with the way it is with just these two fans. They say if you include two more fans in front, unless you're doing like a water cooler type system, you know, maybe that'll be a little bit different, but in an air-cooled system like what we're gonna do, there wasn't really much to be had with including fans elsewhere, so we're not going to really be doing that. We're going to try to keep this system as simple as possible and as clean as possible. But yeah, let's take the side off and let's get ready to start building. And off to the left here, you could see the Enermax Ostrog, the old case that we are replacing here, and right through the window there you could just see the Noctua NHD 15, the behemoth of a cooler that's kind of like sticking right out through that window. So let's take this side panel off. You can see on the left here this giant Noctua NHD 15. Basically this case here has very little to no wire management on the inside. It's very, very tough to build in because on the bottom here there is no basement whatsoever, and we kind of outgrew the case as far as the hard drive cages are concerned. We do have some of the SSDs actually behind the motherboard tray, which there's hardly any room back there. But yeah, we're going to be kind of moving everything over and making everything as clean as possible for this new build. You can see the 2080 Ti right here. We do have that wire management sort of plug there for the power for the 2080 Ti that came with it from EVGA. And in this case here, we're gonna have a lot more wire management, everything to just kind of make sure everything is clean the first time through. So now we're going to get the power supply in. It is a semi-modular power supply. This one is, again, it's going to be the one that we're reusing from our old system. It's a Raid Max 80 Plus Gold. This one, yeah, 850 watts. So more than plenty for our system. More than enough. All right, so we're kind of getting down to the finish line a little bit. We're almost there. So now let's lay this case down. All right, so let's finally get that motherboard in the case. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to fit this cooler with these fans here in this configuration. It's going to be super, super close. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Let's open up the Joule 3900X. There she is, Ryzen 9 3900X. 12 cores, 24 threads of just crazy horsepower. Oh my gosh. Let's see what else comes in the box. Nice presentation. Very nice case. Smells new. Ooh. Stock cooler is pretty heavy. Stock cooler's actually got some good weight to it. Actually might be another good cooler by AMD. Their second gen coolers, their first gen coolers were pretty decent too, but their second gen coolers were much better, especially on the 2700X. We're gonna use this on my wife's system, definitely. I'm gonna change this over. Oh my gosh, look at that thing. It actually looks like this a very similar cooler as to what came on the 2700X. This thing is beefy for a stock cooler, my gosh. Look at that copper plate right there. Downward firing, so you do get some of the airflow on the chipset, on the VRMs. This would probably be sufficient for what we're gonna use this for, but we have the Noctua. We're not gonna not use the Noctua. We have to use the Noctua. So let's put this back. We'll take care of this at a later date. It's definitely nice that they include a cooler that's usable, without a doubt. All right, so we have the motherboard in place right now. What we're gonna do is actually get the cooler on first before we start. I think I'm gonna get the 8-pin and the 4-pin power on first because I think with this cooler, we're just not gonna have any luck. All right, finally got that in. So now we're gonna drop in the CPU. They make it pretty easy. There's a little triangle on the chips themselves. This one's right here at this corner. You just line it up with the triangle that's on the motherboard, and that's actually right over here. So little triangle there, little triangle there. Carefully just drop it in. Make sure it's seated, but you shouldn't have to press, push, or put any pressure on it. And once it's seated in place, you'll kind of know it is. Just lower the arm down, and boom. It's solid, it's in there. Put some thermal paste on there. We did have some of the Noctua NTH1 thermal paste left over from the last time we used. They actually supplied us with a good amount of thermal paste with their coolers, so as you're doing builds you could still save it. All right, so this is day 2. I know I was supposed to get the video up already, but we were having a lot of issues. I finally got the system up and running and stable, and I figured out what the issue was, and that was my power supply had a broken cable, and I think that's kind of what killed our hard drive last time. So we're going to be throwing the Ryzen 2700X into the system, and we're going to be doing some quick benchmarks just to make sure that the other system wasn't compromised due to that power supply cable. And I just really need to find out the truth to make sure that what I'm telling you guys is accurate. So right there we have the 2700X that's going to be going back into this one just to verify. All right, everyone, you see the system running behind me now. Just a few quick things before we jump into the benchmark results. Initially, the 2700X was tested in the configuration that I had the system with the X370 motherboard, but because we discovered that cable failure I just spoke about, you did see me test the 2700X in the X570 motherboard. Those are the results you're gonna see. I figured once we were doing the test, might as well kind of go through all the benchmarks again, so that way we have the results on an even playing field. The only difference is the RAM speed. The 2700X I can only run at 2933, whereas these Corsair sticks that we have, they're capable of 3466, and the 3900X just kind of gobbles that up. It's able to handle that just fine. It can even handle speeds faster than that, depending on the motherboard and the RAM sticks you buy, of course. But here are the benchmarks. Alright everyone, so what do I think? The 3900X, I mean, hopefully you kind of were able to swallow up those benchmarks results. I mean, some of those tests, honestly, I had to go back and forth with the CPU, testing it over and over again, because I thought there was something in my testing methodology that was wrong. Now, a lot of the titles have their own built-in benchmark, so there's really nothing more that I can get wrong there. But in the case of iRacing or Assetto Corsa Competizione, titles like that we have tested, Project Cars 2, I really tried to take the same driving route around, and we used fraps to capture the minimum, the maximum, the average frame rate. We started and stopped at the same time, and then we also did multiple runs, and I took the average of 5 runs, so that way we eliminated any possibility of there being some outlier in the situation. We also did the runs back to back to kind of heat up the chip and the system as much as possible, even though it really doesn't get hot, but that way so we have the same situation each time. But really, I mean, even like for instance the Dirt Rally benchmark, that has a built-in benchmark, but I couldn't believe just how many more frames we're getting. I mean, this CPU is really helping that 2080 Ti kind of breathe and actually get utilized a lot more. It's pretty amazing how just changing a CPU can really change your system. Much larger improvement than we've seen from the 1800 to the 2700X, the 2700X to the 3900X. I mean, rightfully so. We now have 12 cores, 24 threads. We have faster instructions per clock. Overall, just this sort of ecosystem that they built around the 3000 series is pretty amazing. And another thing is just its RAM speed handling. Everything just worked well out of the box. There was none of that sort of juggling around trying to find the optimal RAM speed that we did with the prior generations as they were kind of getting their BIOS sort of leveled up to where they should be. This time everything just felt like it was out of the box, sort of perfect, and that was very refreshing to see. I didn't feel like a beta user as we sort of felt in the past. Hopefully this system is going to be a lot more stable. Again, we did find that power supply cable failure, so We may be searching for another power supply soon. But overall, I do got to say this system is absolutely gorgeous, and I hope it kind of enables us to really go back to a single PC streaming setup. That would be absolutely awesome. I don't want to sacrifice quality because we do have another system over there that we could always use, but it'd be nice to not really fill up this office here with so much heat if we don't have to. Again, everyone, thank you so much for joining in. If you have any questions or anything else you want me to sort of test with this 3900X, definitely leave them in the comment box below. Again, subscribe helps me out. Hit that reminder bell so you guys get notified not only when other future videos come out, but we are going to be live streaming with this setup quite a bit. And you know, my live streams are pretty random, so if you want to know when they're happening, you're going to want to hit that reminder bell. Everyone, have a great weekend. See you all next time.